the empty apartment complex. Sam took the elevator up to the 5th floor, the hum of the machinery the only sound in the silent building. The apartment complex was eerily empty, and the landlord hadn't offered much of an explanation. "Most people moved out during the lockdown," he had said. "You'll have plenty of space and peace here." Peace was exactly what Sam needed. The pandemic had turned the world upside down, and he was desperate for a place to focus on his work. But as the elevator doors slid open with a creak, he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The hallway was dimly lit, with only half the bulbs working. His footsteps echoed as he made his way to apartment 5B. The air smelled stale and the walls were cracked and peeling. Inside, the apartment was basic but clean. Sam set down his suitcase and looked around. A small living room, a kitchen with outdated appliances, and a bedroom with a single window overlooking the courtyard. He sighed. It wasn't much, but it would do. That night, Sam sat at his desk, trying to focus on his work. The silence was so heavy it made him uneasy. He could hear every creak of the building, every rustle of wind outside. And then, faintly, he heard it, a sound like footsteps in the hallway. Sam froze. He hadn't seen or heard anyone else since he moved in. He stood up and opened the door, peering into the corridor. Empty. The footsteps stopped the moment he opened the door. Shaking his head, Sam told himself it was just the building settling. He closed the door and locked it. But the next night, it happened again. This time, the footsteps were louder, slower, and closer. Sam listened, his heart pounding. He crept to the door and peeked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but the sound continued, as if someone were pacing back and forth right outside. He flung the door open, ready to confront whoever or whatever it was. Nothing. The hallway stretched out, silent and still. But as he stood there, he noticed something strange. The air was colder than it had been before. He shivered and shut the door. The third night, Sam decided to stay up. If there was someone playing tricks on him, he was going to catch them. He turned off all the lights and sat on the couch, staring at the door. Around midnight, the footsteps began, slow, deliberate and heavy. They moved up and down the hallway. Sam's breath quickened, and he grabbed a flashlight. He tiptoed to the door and threw it open, shining the beam into the corridor. This time, he saw something, a figure at the far end of the hallway. It was tall and shadowy, its shape distorted as if it were flickering in and out of existence. Sam called out, "Who's there?" The figure didn't answer. Instead, it turned and began walking toward him. Sam's blood ran cold as he realized its footsteps didn't match its movements. They were louder, echoing unnaturally. Slamming the door shut, Sam locked it and backed away. The footsteps stopped outside his door. Then, a soft knock. He held his breath, waiting. The knock came again, louder this time. Sam grabbed his phone, but there was no signal. "Go away," he shouted, his voice trembling. The knocking stopped, but a low whisper began. It was coming from inside the apartment. Sam spun around, shining the flashlight. The shadows in the corners seemed to move, twisting and growing. The whispering grew louder, filling the room with words he couldn't understand. Panicking, Sam ran to the door, but it wouldn't budge. The whispers turned into laughter, cold, mocking laughter that surrounded him. And then, silence. When the landlord came to check on Sam the next day, the apartment was empty. His suitcase, clothes, and even his laptop were still there. But there was no sign of him. The landlord sighed and shook his head. "Another one gone," he muttered, locking the door behind him. The building settled, and in the silence, faint footsteps echoed in the hallway once more. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.